Good morning, Chad. You can probably tell by looking at me that I don't really cry all that often. And it doesn't have anything to do with me being a man or with how handsome or strong or tall that I am. It's because my favorite artist once said, "I'm so 3008, you so 2000 and late." Wait, what? Sorry, she said big girls don't cry, and I'm nothing if not a big girl. Despite that being my life's mantra, I still find myself tearing up when I watch the 2004 hit romantic movie, The Notebook. If you've never seen the movie, it's basically the retelling of this old couple's journey of falling in love, as told by the guy Noah to his wife Allie, since she doesn't remember him because she's suffering from dementia. The movie opens up with Allie and Noah getting ready for the date, and Noah begins to read from his notebook. You get it? Do you see why they call it The Notebook? It's honestly really touching. The reality of a loved one, let alone your partner of 40 years forgetting who you are, sounds absolutely awful. If my first wife ever forgore me, bro, I'm gonna have to hit her with one of these. It really is heart-wrenching to watch this old man try to remind his wife of their love, and that's why the movie almost brought me to tears. Almost. Because it turns out that this couple's beautiful love story is actually incredibly toxic. I'm pretty sure the old couple themselves is a manipulation tactic to make you think that this movie is more romantic than it is, and they almost got me. But once you find out how actually awful Noah and Allie are, it changes the way you view their older selves. It's like if you ask your grandparents a story of how they met and you find out that your grandpa was 25 and your grandma was 15. It ultimately doesn't change anything, but you look at Grandpa a little differently. Before watching it for myself, I just kind of assumed The Notebook was a regular romance movie, but I couldn't have been more wrong. Naturally, in recounting his love story to his wife, Noah starts on the day they met, and you can already see the cracks. First off, when they first meet, she's on a date with this guy right here, and Noah sees him from a distance and decides to approach anyway, asking for a dance, which is incredibly rude. And if it stopped here, I'd still think negatively of him, but it gets worse. Allie tells him no because she doesn't want to, and Noah decides to interrupt her date again by jumping in their Ferris wheel car, and Allie rejects him again, and he does the natural thing of threatening to kill himself. I've seen some people on the internet say, "Oh, he's just flirting, nothing was ever gonna happen." She doesn't know him. She doesn't know what he's capable of, and if you think it's okay for him to do this, I want you to imagine that you somehow found a way to get a date, and then somebody interrupts you by doing this. You still think it's okay? Are you still okay with it? And as if ruining their date wasn't enough, he pretends to start slipping from the metal bar until she repeats, "I want to go on a date with you."
I want to go out with you.
Say it again.
I want to go out with you.
It's not cute, man. This is weirdo behavior. But for some reason, it works. She sees him the next day and she's saying they don't have a date, but she's definitely flirting with him now. And in this interaction, we get probably one of the creepiest things I think you could say to somebody you don't know. If you put horror music over this guy's a serial killer.
When I see something that I like, I got it. I love it.
This is just a personal gripe of mine. Ryan Gosling looks so uncanny with brown eyes. If you hadn't noticed before, you were just wondering why he was wearing brown contacts, it's because James Garner, the guy that plays older Noah, has brown eyes, and Ryan Gosling didn't want to break continuity. And apparently, Ryan Gosling wanted to do more things to make their characters similar, like have the same accent and talk with the same mannerisms and stuff. But James Garner really wasn't having any of it. He just said, "Hey man, do whatever you want to do." And I just wish Ryan Gosling would have ran with this, because could you imagine if they cut to older Noah and he has like a normal voice? It's just all, "Noah and Allie, we're going on dates and stuff." But then they cut to Ryan Gosling and he's all, "Oi bruv, you don't go on a date with me, I'll off myself. I'll do it." Right, so they go on their first date and it's actually kind of cute, but it's short-lived because they give us what I think is the most damning line for their relationship.
They didn't agree on much. In fact, they rarely agreed on anything.
This is not good. The movie tries to play this up as just part of their passion for one another, and it goes on to say the one thing they did have in common was that they were crazy for each other. But I'm not falling for it. The movie's trying to trick you because they show you all these cute scenes and they make you think they're really good together, and then they quickly just try to throw in, "Oh yeah, by the way, they don't ever agree and they fight all the time and she hits him a lot, but oh my gosh, they're just so cute. Isn't it so cute?" No, it's not cute. It's toxic. Sure, it might be normal, even healthy for a couple to have a disagreement and argue every now and then, but all the time? He says they rarely agree on anything. Buddy, you gotta get out of here. This isn't good. And to his credit, he does try to leave. There's a night where Allie's parents call the cops because they don't know where their daughter is at 2 a.m. And this was before cell phones, so the only way to reach her would have been through carrier pigeon. But like a typical teenager, Allie forgot hers, so she goes rushing home. She starts arguing with her mom, and Noah realizes this probably isn't gonna work. Now, the breakup scene is actually kind of funny because it starts off okay, and then you realize it just gets dumber and dumber. Like I said, Noah comes to the conclusion that Allie's gonna leave at the end of the summer, so it's not gonna work out and they should break up anyway. In protest, Allie says she doesn't have to go to school, but Noah, like a responsible adult, tells her that she can't give up school. And then their conversation immediately falls apart because she says he can go with her and he tells her no. But like, why? He asks, what am I gonna do in New York? You can do the same thing you're doing right now. You work at a lumber yard. You don't think there's manual labor? I'm supposed to believe that Noah is so passionate about Allie, but he's not even willing to try to move with her. Well, they're unable to work out a solution, and her response is to start hitting him. This couple is so unbearable, man, and we're not even at the worst part of it. Luckily, though, we get a break from them as a couple, and we get a little insight into their lives apart. We get to see that Noah regretted breaking up with Allie, and he writes her letters every day trying to get her back. But after a year of trying, he gives up, and he moves to a major city with his best friend. I don't think Noah liked Allie that much. He then joins the military, and there's a weird scene here that like definitely didn't need to be in the movie. They show the guys in the military just naked, holding their Johnsons. Could you imagine being on set and the director's all like, this scene is important to the movie. They all have to be naked. If they're not naked, how are people gonna know that they're in the military? Also, during his time in the military, we find out that Noah's best friend dies right in front of him, and Noah has like no reaction to it. I've had more reaction when I've dropped food on the floor. This is your best friend who you moved away for. You didn't even do that for Allie, but this is how you react when he dies? Show a little emotion, man. And right after losing his best friend, he goes home and his dad randomly dies. Right before Noah's dad died though, he sold his house so Noah could buy his dream home that he promised he'd fix up for Allie. He spends all of his time and his resources hoping that somehow, some way, fixing this house will bring Allie back to him. Speaking of, for some reason in the regular release of the movie, we don't actually see the direct aftermath of Allie moving away. Instead, we jump straight into her third year of college where she's been volunteering as a nurse's aide. It's during this volunteering where she meets Lon, a man that she describes as handsome, funny, smart, sophisticated, charming, and fabulously wealthy. She also says that she was surprised with how quickly she fell in love with him, and we get an abbreviated version of their love story that's very similar to the way they blitz through her summer romance with Noah. At the end of it, we see the scene where Lon proposes to Allie, and for some reason, Allie sees Noah in her head when she says yes to his proposal. Now, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm a cynic, maybe I'm a jerk who doesn't like love, but I find it so off-putting that when she's being proposed to by somebody that she has described as perfect, she's still obsessing over a relationship from 7 years ago when she was a teenager. In fact, her obsession is so bad that while she's trying on her wedding dress, she sees a picture of Noah in the newspaper and passes out. Her feelings culminate in her thinking she needs to go see Noah to get closure, so she lies to her fiance saying she needs to get away to clear her head. And as if this guy couldn't be more perfect, he's so understanding of this. He tells her it's normal to get cold feet before a wedding, so go ahead, think it through. If she doesn't marry this guy, I will. So Allie takes off to see her ex-boyfriend while reassuring her fiance that everything is just fine. When she first gets to the house, it's pretty awkward because Noah won't stop staring at her, but she alleviates this by crashing into his fence and then joining him for dinner. Now, I'm going to take a break from their love story real quick to talk about the last thing in this movie that brings me joy, because the final act is so incredibly frustrating to watch. Before we see Allie go into the house for a chat, we cut back to the future to see old Noah, who I'm just going to call Duke from now on because that's what he calls himself. So Duke is in an appointment with the doctor checking out his heart, and the doctor is so rude to him. First off, the doctor doesn't even talk about Duke's health. He just asks if he's been taking his meds, he checks his heart, and then immediately starts talking about Allie. The doctor shows disapproval for Duke reading to Allie since it won't help her condition, and he doesn't want Duke to get his hopes up, which is fair, but also like, he's enjoying reading to her. This isn't the first time he's read, so he knows what happens when she forgets. But the doctor is just so mean about it. He's like, it's not gonna work. She's never gonna come back. I don't know. I just find this interaction funny. It's a little something to take the edge off because the rest of the movie, I'm either angry or sad. We cut to Allie and Noah having some beer post-dinner, and Allie says if she keeps drinking, Noah might have to carry her out of here. And he responds with, well, you better slow down then because I don't want to have to take advantage of you. And when she reminds him that she's married, he says, no, he threatens her with, not yet. Why do people like this? After this weird post-dinner conversation, Noah's reading poetry to Allie when she starts talking about how their love was real even though they were just kids. And they sit longingly staring at each other. And then she has the audacity to answer a call from her fiance and tell him, everything's okay, you've got nothing to worry about. Allie decides to see Noah the next day, and they go out on a very romantic boat ride and they feed ducks. But oh no, it starts to rain, and we get the most iconic scene from the movie. Now, if you look up The Notebook, you get pictures from this scene. It's the cover of the movie. It's the movie poster. It was the cover of the book that I borrowed from the library. This scene is so iconic that I used to be able to quote the whole thing before I ever watched this movie. And before watching it, I really didn't think anything of it, but now I know how horrible these people are, and I should have been able to see it from the beginning. I want you to look right here. Do you see this? In the iconic shot from the movie, she's wearing a massive engagement ring from not this guy. If you've had the pleasure of never having seen this scene before, the gist of it is that she yells at him for never writing to her, but remember, he wrote her a letter every day for a year, so when they realize there's been some sort of misunderstanding, they just spend the next 2 days smushing booties. I was talking to my mom about this scene, and she said, well, if she got the letters, they would have been together, so it's okay. And I have to think that a bunch of people agree with this sentiment, otherwise I don't see how anybody likes this movie. But that's not how it works. She's engaged. She made a promise to another guy. Oh, also, not only that, but Noah has a girlfriend as well. There's this woman he's been seeing, but he's been treating her like crap because he's still obsessed with Allie, and she comes to see Noah and ends up having dinner with her boyfriend and the girl he cheated on her with. This movie would actually just be better if both of them were single when they reunite. Maybe there'd be less conflict or whatever, but I don't care. As it stands, I hate both of them. The couple that I'm rooting for are the worst people in the movie. When I first watched this, I honestly thought something was gonna come out to make you hate Lon. Like maybe he was mean to Allie, or like, I don't know, he ate everything like a little goblin with his hands. Some sort of flaw. But nope. In fact, when she goes and tells him that she cheated on him, like a lot, he's the most patient and forgiving person I've ever seen in any movie. This guy is a saint. And he tells her he doesn't want to have to convince his fiance to be with him, and she says, you don't, before promptly leaving him to be with Noah, and even she doesn't understand why she's here. She just walks up to him and shrugs. I don't know. I keep trying to wrap my head around why people like this movie, and it has to be the old couple. The final act of this movie is heartbreaking. After we see Allie enthusiastically return to Noah in the past, we cut to the future where she finally remembers that she's Allie and Duke is Noah. She asks Noah how much time they have, and he tells her that last time they got no more than 5 minutes. So they spend a few minutes just enjoying each other's company, and she ends up forgetting who he is, and she freaks out and starts screaming, and the nurses have to come in, and Noah is devastated. And I gotta admit, this scene gets me. I tear up every time until I remember, these people are actually the worst. But even with how bad they suck, it's really sad. So sad, in fact, that Noah has a heart attack and he died. Oh, wait, never mind. He's alive. Well, he's back from the hospital now, and he goes to see Allie, who miraculously remembers him immediately, and they have a conversation about how strong their love is, and they die together in their sleep. As much as I really don't like the story in this movie, this ending is quite beautiful, and I think it has to be the reason people fall in love with the story, because the young couple have no redeeming qualities. If you go on the internet and look at people's opinions of this movie, you'll find for some reason people vehemently defending it, or you'll find people like me with thinking brains who realize this movie is a sham. But a common opinion shared between both of these groups of people is that the movie ruined the story, and that the book is so much better. So I thought, what the HE double hockey sticks, bro? I'll read the book, and it's a little better, but it's also kind of worse. I'll start with the positives because there's a lot less of those. First off, their meeting and their relationship in general is much less hostile. He's not interrupting a date, and the book doesn't say anything about them fighting all the time, like they have an actual amicable relationship. Also, Noah doesn't have a girlfriend when he reunites with Allie. Turns out, he tried dating, he even dated a girl for a couple of years, but it didn't work because he was still obsessed with Allie. And this is just how it should have been. I personally find it much more romantic if they tried moving on, but couldn't because their connection was so strong. But it doesn't really matter because Allie is still with Lon in the book. At least Noah's a bit of a better guy. And that's the end of the positives. Everything else in the book is just as bad, if not worse than the movie. So you remember how I said she wasn't on a date when she first meets Noah? Well, it turns out the reason for that is because she has a boyfriend back home. Also, in the book, the gap in time since they've seen each other is 14 years. 14 years, and they're still obsessed with each other. Think about how different you were 14 years ago. The book and the movie have this weird obsession with first loves, and it's so strange to me, especially when the first love happened when they were teenagers. The movie is so obsessed with this idea that Allie's mom takes her to see a man she was in love with 25 years ago. I understand, it's perfectly normal to every now and then have a thought about things you could have done differently and how your life would be different if your choices changed. It's normal to have these kinds of thoughts every now and then. But Allie's mom says whenever she's in town, she'll occasionally swing by this guy's place of work and just stare at him. Isn't that weird? She says that she loves her husband and has a good life. And I mean, I'd hope so, because somebody in the movie says that Allie's dad has more money than God. So why is she here staring at this man? Sorry to go off on Allie's mom. Maybe I just don't get it. The circumstances for Allie going back to see Noah are basically the same in the book. She's engaged, she sees his picture in the paper, and she decides she needs to go get closure. And just like in the movie, Lon is the perfect man. Now, a big difference from the book to the movies is there's much more build-up and tension before they end up sleeping together. In the movie, you really only get the dinner scene and then the canoe scene, and they end up kissing. Not only is the build-up slower, but because this is, a book, we get some inner dialogue, and it makes me feel so icky hearing them lust for each other when Allie's fiance is losing his mind. I honestly don't care that he hasn't made other connections or that he believes Allie is his soulmate. Noah is a bad dude for interacting with Allie the way he does. One of the first things he says to her when they reunite is, if you're happy and you love him, I won't try to stop you from going back. And sure, I guess it works out for him, but he's still awful for saying it. Another issue I have with the book is that it makes it even less clear why she doesn't love Lon. In the movie, we don't really get a concrete reason why she feels something is missing in a relationship. They kind of hint that something is wrong when she comes up to him and tells him she doesn't paint anymore, and it kind of feels like they're insinuating that her relationship with Lon is the reason why she stopped doing what she loves. But when she tells him how much she used to love it, he says,
So paint.
obviously, Lon is not the issue here. Well, in the book, she gives 2 reasons why she feels like her relationship is lacking. The first is that she feels there isn't any passion in her relationship, and the second is that she feels like Lon is very into his work, so sometimes she wishes they could just spend more time together and they could talk about things like desires and passions and poetry or whatever. Mind you, she knows he doesn't intentionally do this, he's just really busy. And honestly, I think these complaints are fair. It's reasonable for her to feel this way. It's not reasonable that she cheats on Lon. You see, I think these feelings are normal, and she just needs to bring it up with her fiance so they can work it out. Something that I know is possible because we get a couple of Lon POV chapters. In his chapters, Lon is able to piece together that Allie might be with her ex because of a story Allie's mom told him a while back. Once he realizes this, he can't think straight because Allie is his rock. Lon says that Allie means everything to him and he can't afford to lose her. He's even lamenting the fact that he needs to spend more time with her. He's so passionate about his fiance maybe leaving him that he asks the judge if he can postpone a trial that he's working on, something that the judge is okay with because Lon has never ever asked for this before. It's actually so frustrating reading about this guy struggling when his fiance doesn't care. When Allie leaves Noah to go talk to Lon, Noah tells her that he can't imagine her being with someone else, that he can't lose her, and all I could think about was the fact that Lon said the exact same thing, but it doesn't mean anything for some reason. At the very least, the scene of Allie leaving Noah gives me my favorite comedic scene from either medium, because Noah mouths to Allie, "Stay with me." Now, I know that's not inherently funny, but I just couldn't stop picture him doing it all dramatic, I don't know, man. I just need something to get me through the rest of the book. The last big change I want to talk about doesn't have anything to do with the young couple, but actually their ending as old people. I remember when I watched the movie for the first time, the ending, while beautiful, felt like it came out of nowhere. Sure, Duke had a heart attack recently, but he still seemed relatively healthy. The mean doctor didn't say anything about his health in their meeting, so him dying with Allie felt like a little bit of a surprise. It's still a fine ending though, so it doesn't really matter. In the book, Noah often talks about how cold he is and how his body is failing, and close to the end of the book, he even has a stroke that causes him to be unable to use half of his body. So as we were getting closer to the ending, I just kept thinking, oh okay, so the movie took the book ending, but it didn't do any of the legwork. Color me surprised when it turns out that the final line of the book is Allie unbuttoning Noah's shirt so they could presumably have sex. It was so jarring. I thought I skipped something. I had to go back a few chapters and then go forward a few chapters looking for something. But nope, it straight up ends with them going to the bone zone. My guy, now is not the time for these activities. I don't know if you remember this or not, but like the whole catalyst for this movie is, what was it again? Oh yeah, your wife has dementia. Remember how she freaks out when she forgets everything? Imagine how she's gonna react if she forgets mid-coitus, bro. How could you possibly think this was a good idea? And that's the end of The Notebook. I've spent too much time thinking about a book and a movie that don't have any impact on my life, but I think people need to learn the truth. And if I need to, I will single-handedly take down the entirety of the Nicholas Sparks cinematic universe. Wait, he hasn't had a book adapted into a movie since 2016? Well, I'll do it anyway. All right, see ya!